All right, guys, good morning. How you doing?
Hello, everybody.
It's exciting to see so many hustlers in the room. I know you guys are knocking out sites or thinking about it. How many have been to Asia before? Okay, how many is your first time? It's exciting, man. This place is insane. It's electric. There are a ton of entrepreneurs in Ho Chi Minh, Chiang Mai, Bangkok. I was talking to Anton about this right before we got started. How awesome this thing is right now that we've got going. I mean, there's a ton of people, and I know some of you guys are thinking about staying. I'd really encourage you to, because there's an amazing community. There's amazing entrepreneurs out here building really cool shit. So anyways, let's just kind of get into it. We are the Empire Flippers, as you were saying before. We're not, we've got a podcast, we've got a blog, but we're just a couple of guys that, took a shot at kind of building a business in Asia, and it worked out. We're going to go through our story briefly, just to kind of get you caught up on what we do. But really, this is about you. So we're going to talk about, ways that you can scale your business through things like standard operating procedures, hiring the right people for your team, and then actually using what we call a skill transfer process to transfer those skills over to them. So we're going to get into that today. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about our background. So yeah, we're a couple of guys hanging out. We hang out on the couch. This is us way back in the day. We're not going to go that far back, but I played soccer. So
I like yachts. No.
We had a mortgage company back in the U.S. and it failed miserably. This is back when the mortgage crisis hit, and it was pretty devastating for us to have this business fail. But one of the good things we learned from that is that we can recover, right? It's something we can do. And we did have a virtual assistant in the Philippines working for us, and that was the only good thing that came out of that mortgage business. She crushed it. She was killing it for us, doing amazing work for cheap. We were like, I don't know about this whole mortgage shit, but that stuff, that's going to do something. Unfortunately, we didn't catch on to it, and all these things like Odesk and stuff came out. Would have been nice. But we ended up working for a local SEO company, and they needed to scale their business. And we said, we have staff in the Philippines. We have a way to kind of make this work. We ended up doing a few agents and expanding that. We actually, at an Outback Steakhouse in the U.S., did some napkin math and kind of sketched out our plan to build an outsourcing company and basically outsource ourselves. So we made it a little nicer, did a PowerPoint, brought it to our CEO and CFO, said, look, we want to do this for you. We want to build a team in the Philippines. And they said, cool, so we don't want to own that shit. So yeah, you guys go for it. We outsourced ourselves.
And then in 2009, I came out to the Philippines to run the company full time, and things were going well. So we were very happy with the way things were going. We're kind of a middleman, so we're living on the arbitrage between what we could charge people and what we could pay people in the Philippines to work for.
So what we got really good at were building kind of processes in other people's businesses and helping them scale it with staff. So for the bean counters, Joe likes to say, there's bean counters in the U.S. that are overpaid when you think about it internationally. So we're able to take people have 5 staff in the U.S. and they're paying a total of $20,000 a month to. You can turn that around and pay $5,000-$6,000 in the Philippines if you put the right processes and people in place. So we were helping people do that. And we were a good middleman deal. It was a nice lifestyle business and afforded, basic, living in the Philippines, which was good, but it wasn't really doing our own stuff.
And it wasn't very compelling either.
Yeah, we were helping other people build a business based on process and people. That wasn't really benefiting us in the long term. We were this middleman service that just wasn't awesome. And so eventually, we had our major client drop us. So they dropped us like a bad habit. And we ended up having to look for new clients and shopping for that. And we kept it going, but we needed something to do with the staff. So we decided to start just creating this niche sites, which sounded like some scammy ass shit from the Warrior Forum.
Yeah.
Right?
I was really convinced. I was like, no way, Justin. We're not going to make any money at this.
I came to Joe, I said, dude, I got an idea, AdSense sites. He goes, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I read about it. It's great.
Yeah, I thought it was a get-rich-quick scheme for sure.
Yeah, so we started building these little AdSense sites, and I spent a lot of time doing it. And then I was like, Joe, I think this might work. So we started building out more and more. Turns out that these were profitable, barely, but profitable at like $8 a month on average. So some would make 100, some would make $1. They're like the smallest drop shipping sites you could build, but a lot less work to put them up too, right? So we started doing that. we wanted to scale the process, so we figured out that we could sell these sites, right, realize 20 times their net profit, and then put that money, invest it back into building the businesses out. So I compare this to, let's say, drop shipping, where you build out a few sites, you get them kind of rolling, and you want to roll out more sites, but you're still kind of tied to this other one. You want to put more cash into building out something bigger and better the next time. You can sell that and basically reinvest. And instead of swinging for a single or double, you can actually go for a triple, home run, that kind of thing. All right, so that's kind of our background. Then we started getting into brokering. So what we do today is we help people buy and sell websites by providing a safe, secure platform for them to do that. So we compare ourselves to Flippa. Flippa has the most sites, we have the best sites. So that's kind of our...
Yeah, and that's what we do exclusively now. We've since sold the outsourcing company. We're out of our other businesses. We don't build sites anymore. So we're only doing buying and selling websites to our marketplace.
All right, so just overview of what we're covering today. The first section will be on building human machines. And what we mean by that is putting people and process in place that really scales your business without you in it, right? And that's the key part, is that a dropshipping site where you're continually working on it on a regular basis, or several dropship sites, you build yourself maybe even a really high-paying job, but it's a job nonetheless. And so what we want to talk about is how you can put people in there that will grow, that will maintain, and even grow your sites through your own team without your direct involvement. And that's business shit. That's a self-run business.
Yeah, and that's what buyers are really interested in. They don't want to buy a job. So if you have a dropship site that makes $1,000 a month, but you have to put 40 hours of personal work in, it's going to be tough to sell that. So we're hopefully going to show you some ways to build new machines and have those processes done for you.
And the second part, we're basically going to walk you through step by step from 6 months out from selling all the way through the actual sale, to kind of show you what you need to prepare and to give you the best chance to both sell the site and get maximum value out of your sale. Some of these things are things you should probably be doing anyway, but they're going to be particularly important if you plan on flipping your site, making some cash, and selling it off. All right, so let's get in the first section, building human machines. What do we mean by building human machines? We're talking about blending people and process in a way that allows you to run the business without your involvement. They're doing the work, they're growing the business. The difference between building your job and building an actual business. There are a lot of people out here even, Ho Chi Minh or whatever, that have like a consulting business, right? But if they stop working for a month, they stop getting paid. And so we're more interested in building assets that you can actually stop working for a month, 2 months, you're just not involved in your business, and people are still running it for you.
I like to use poker analogy. If you play poker and you walk away from the table, there's no way to make any more money. And a true business will work without you there. And that's what you want to strive for in your dropship business, is you want to have processes and people in place to make sure it's working without you.
So, I know, have any of you guys, has anyone not started a store yet? So a couple of you, a little shy, the hands are who started a store and had some sales already?
All right.
Awesome. So you guys, if you've had some sales now, you're starting to the point where you see, okay, this actually might be real, right? This might be a real deal, and Anton wasn't completely full of shit. So that's cool, right? And so you're going to get to the point where you want to start scaling it up and building out, more sites, and have maybe your team take over. And that's kind of our bread and butter, and that's why we're here. We want to talk to you about that today.
Yeah, we used to do this a lot for clients in the outsourcing business, and so we're pretty familiar with it. We used to do it back in the U.S. for corporations that we used to work for. So we've used a lot of that in our own business, and we've taught it to other entrepreneurs as well. And I think that is something that's really valuable for you guys to learn.
So what does this look like? Well, basically, this is a business that can run on its own, as we've already said. You've got people in process that can do that. It can function, but it can also grow. We've got one of our new guys, an apprentice, here with us, Mike over here in the corner with the blue shirt. We brought him out from the US to help us in the Philippines and help us work with our team. Guys like him and the guys back there working right now and couldn't come out here and play in Chiang Mai, Vincent, they're running our business. They're actually coming up with initiatives and helping us build our business. And we're going to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, that's key, is definitely you want the processes in place and to not only maintain the business, but to grow it. Because if you want to take a week off and go do cliff jumping, you're going to need somebody to actually grow the business while you're away, not just maintain it.
So we're all about assets, not cash flows. Now, don't get me wrong, cash flows can own. I know some of you probably heard about this crazy Teespring stuff, right? Yeah, like crushing it. Our buddy Tung Tran in the very back, I'm calling you out, buddy. He crushed it with Teespring, dude. Yeah, awesome. If you guys don't know, he runs a site called Cloud Living. It's the most amazing thing. This 19-year-old Vietnamese kid has got these like 40 and 50-year-old guys in the US going, damn, how do you do keyword research? Like, what's the deal? It's awesome. So, love him. But yeah, he crushed it with Teespring. I know some other people are doing that. And it's great. It's great for cash, but it's a temporary thing. That shit may be gone in a week, a month, maybe a couple of months. So we're talking about building assets that are going to last beyond, you know, the latest fad or the latest kind of cash flow that's popped up.
And remember, assets are more valuable for buyers. So if you are looking to sell your site eventually, buyers want to buy assets, not just cash flow.
So what are SOPs? Let's talk about that a bit. It's basically just a systematic way of documenting all of your procedures for new hires and trainees. So a lot of times we have things in our head or we have things from Anton's course that we know how to do, and we've done it enough times where we're just like, okay, I know how to do it, and I just knock through it. The problem with that is it's just you. Like, it's just you that has that knowledge. And it might be difficult to just hand over Anton's course to your employee and say, hey, figure this out, and then we can work together. That's not going to work. What you can do is break it down into kind of bite-sized chunks. So there's a systematic way for you to pass that information along to new hires, apprentices, that kind of thing.
Who here has written an SOP for their business? All right, so some of you.
So you're used to building some kind of process in. I think it's a really good thing. And it's slower at first because, well, it just sucks. I mean, you know how to do it. It's faster to just do it than to go through and document it. But that short-term pain is long-term gain for you in your business. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We're going to show you an example of one of our SOPs a little later. If it's too overly complicated, that shit won't ever get used. You want something that's fairly straightforward that people can just knock through and do. You're going to be breaking down complicated tasks like, you know, I don't know, complicated tasks for us would be like our vetting process for accepting new sellers. It's fairly complicated, but we break it down into little chunks so that anyone can go through and do those little chunks. So we're going to show you some examples.
Yeah, this is really important that when you have these long processes, you really break them down, because otherwise someone can't do, you know, a couple of tasks in a sitting. They have to feel like they have to do the whole thing, and then they don't need a break, and they don't know where to pick up where they left off. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
And some people think, well, this is too subjective. There's no way you can create a process for this. I argue that. I don't know. I've talked to people and they're like, oh, there's no way. Like, this is just, it takes my touch, my finesse. I don't think so. So if you actually have a situation like that, talk to me on the break. I'd love to hear it and see if we can figure something out.
Yeah, talking about questions. If you guys do have questions, we'll have a little time for that at the end. And we'll do a little Q&A.
Yeah, these are, by the way, this is broken out of a workshop, which is normally like 15, 20 people. So it's normally, you know, a much tighter knit group. So we're modifying it for you guys. So the next part, what are SOPs? This should only be for things that are working, right? So only for things that are profitable. The worst thing you can do is scale something in your business that doesn't make you money. You're gonna be building a ton of inefficiency and crap into your business that is gonna make you bloated, right? As a small company, you wanna stay tight and lean. So you only wanna take things that are making you money and scale. The guys over at Tropical MBA podcast said this, I think it was fantastic. If it makes you money, you shouldn't be doing it. Those are the things you scale. Everything else, you're still figuring out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how many people here have listened to the Tropical MBA podcast? All right.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of good SOP episodes. Highly suggest you check them out if you're interested in building those kind of things for your business.
All right, so where do we start, right? So you're going to want to make this a very entry-level type position. So we like to say, you got to take a McDonald's employee and break it down for them.
I hope McDonald's doesn't get mad for us using their
Right, so how do you make the fries, right? How do you serve the customer? These are the types of things you need to be able to do. And it seems a little basic and maybe a little too basic, but don't worry about that. It's okay, because you're not going to want, you're going to have packet loss if you make it too complicated. So you're going to want to break it down and make it really basic. You're going to start with some time-consuming tasks. So the things that, you know, that are repetitive and that take hours of your time, those are the things you shouldn't be doing anymore. Those are the things that you're going to build an SOP around.
Yeah, and the last thing is definitely make sure you run through the process yourself. When we were running the outsourcing company, company, I was amazed at how many customers would come to us and say, oh, I have this great process, this is what I want your people to do, willing to pay for it, everything was good. And I would say, well, how long does it take to do this? And they'd say, oh, probably about 20 minutes. And I'd say, well, how do you know that? I guess. Have you ever done the process before? No. So you need to be able to do the process yourself at least a couple of times before trying to put it down into an SOP and have somebody else do it.
I'll admit I'm totally guilty of that. I've said, I got this great idea. I'm gonna have you knock this out. It's gonna be fantastic, right? And then they do it, it takes way longer, or they don't know how to do it, or you can't actually do it all the way through. Have you guys done that before? I tried to pass something on and it sucked. Yeah, do it yourself first. Get through the process. Know that it works and know that it's profitable, and then you can start hiring and scaling it up. So let's take a look at what we use. We use something called suiteprocess.com. You don't have to use this, you can use a Google Doc, but SuiteProcess makes it really easy and it's modular. So you can create a step, another step, you can add steps in between and it will automatically number them for you. It gives your team a nice little checklist they can go through. You can add images, you can add video, and here's kind of an example.
The slide didn't come through too well. I guess the video is not working so well, but SuiteProcess allows you to really break down your processes in a checklist, and each step would have the directions underneath it. So that's what we're trying to show you here. And as the agent goes through the process, they go ahead and click off the check mark and move to the next step.
We've got some silly little things in there. Open up iTunes, do your magic. Like it's not this crazy corporate kind of document. It's a living document, something that we use on a regular basis that your team will get used to, get comfortable with, and will use themselves.
Anyone here using Suite Anyone?
You guys heard of that before?
You should probably check it out. It's a very good tool, very good resource for building SOPs. You can also use Google Docs, which obviously would be free, but SuiteProcess is pretty cheap as well.
I have no stock in that company, just if you're wondering. I'm an affiliate. So something else you should be aware of, some warnings. What's simple to you may be very complicated to someone else because you know your business really well, right? You've been through this over and over again. You've done this over and over again. It's like clockwork for you, but someone else taking it over may be much more confused. So you need to be more simple in your process than you think you need to be. And sometimes you'll find a process within a process. We call it process inception. Have you guys seen that movie? Yeah. Basically, what you can do is you can break those out. So you're going through and you see something that's a little more complicated, maybe an 8-step process inside of a process, then you can actually link that to something else and create a completely separate process.
Here's a big tip. Video and screenshots work really well when you're trying to break down these processes. So SuiteProcess allows you to put video directly into the document or screenshots directly into the document so that as they're reading along, they can play or see exactly what you're doing. And that kind of visual representation works really well, especially if you have someone who's not a native speaker that's working on a process.
We like to use the buddy test. So if you're in a mastermind or you have another entrepreneur and you guys are kind of working together or you're heading along together, you can ask him or her to look at it and kind of go through it and see if they understand it, see if they can follow the steps and get through it. If they can, then it's probably you're probably doing well, especially if they don't know your business that well. So the buddy test is really helpful. Make sure you do that as you're going through it. All right, so the next question is, now you've got your process in place. That's the first thing you have to do. You don't want to hire before you have that in place so that you can get your employees up to speed. So when should you hire? That's the next question, right? We're going to go through a few different things that look at different types of employees, and we're going to look at some hiring guidelines that I think are important. So the first thing is you have documented your process, and so we've already gone through that SOPs, and getting that documented is the first step. And that you've proven that these are proven valuable and will add to your bottom line. So these are profitable steps that you're taking. And then you need to be able to hire someone at a lower per hour rate than you're currently working at. That's critical. So if you're working at a $20 an hour rate, can you hire at 10, right? And even though that's maybe a painful hit, you're making money on that arbitrage. Does that make sense? So you're always looking for someone that you can hire cheaper than you are. And keep in mind though that When you're starting your business, most of you probably started your drop shipping sites working for pennies, right? Like you didn't make any money, and you're busting your ass on getting the site up, and that's going to continue for a while. But the work that you do today should be paying off in dividends later, right? So you need to think about your time, not in the hours or in the dollars you're making per hour today. It's in 2 years from now. So where do you expect your business to be, and what do you expect your dollar per hour to be at that point? That's how you should value your time today.
I talk about this with entrepreneurs all the time. You'll go through these phases in your business where you're working extremely hard, maybe 3 months, 4 months, and you won't notice it while you're in that. It's almost like surfing. You don't notice it while you're in the wave. Once you get pushed along, you caught up, and now it's pushing you by itself. It's kind of a snowball effect, and it works really, really well. So keep the pedal to the metal while you can, and make sure you don't let up.
All right, so the first question you should ask yourself is, do I need a contractor or do I need an employee? And this is really going to depend on what you need done, right? It's going to depend on what position or what type of work you need to have done. So the first thing is you want to use this for one-off projects. You want to use a contractor for one-off projects. So if you know that it's not a repeatable part of your business, it's not something you plan to scale, that's probably a good time to bring a contractor in for a one-off. Also, professional services you couldn't afford full-time. So if you need to hire a $60 an hour developer, you're probably not going to be staffing that guy to work on your fledgling dropship business. Right?
Yeah, we're very guilty of this in design and development, which Justin and I suck at. We always hire contractors. We don't hire full-time employees because we don't know how it's going to work out, and it's a service that, we can't afford to hire a $100,000 developer to work on our business.
Yeah, so if it's a professional service that's outside of the scope of your ability to hire at that point, then you need to use a contractor. Also for highly technical projects, if you're not a development company, don't hire developers. Just hire a contractor to work part-time. So here are some guidelines for hiring employees. You're going to want to make sure that these are repeatable or longer-term process of your business. This is your bread and butter. This is something that you're going to do on this site, on your next site, and well into the future. That's an employee hire.
Yeah, customer service would be a great example. It's pretty easy to outsource customer service these days. You could get some company in India or Philippines to have some agents, but they don't really have a vested interest in making your customers happy. So that's why we really think, especially if you're a small company, hiring some sort of agent directly to handle customer service is probably going to be just as cheap, and you'll get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, these are some third-party service that provides VAs. They're not going to be as connected to your business. You're going to want to hire your own team members for things that require some love, care, and attention, especially when dealing with customers. So now that you've answered the question of contractor hire employees, the second one is, do you hire a virtual assistant or do you hire an apprentice?
We love apprentices.
We do. So let's talk about that a bit. Now, for our purposes, we're going to say a VA is a virtual assistant out of the Philippines, right? Because that's what we're most familiar with. They can be anywhere. They can be India. They can be any country. Pakistan, doesn't matter. But we're gonna assume Philippines because that's what we're familiar with. When we talk about an apprentice, let's probably explain this a bit. Us being in Southeast Asia, there's an opportunity to find super sharp guys and gals that are looking to make a change. They don't want to do the office work, right? And they're normally in their 20s, they're fired up, and they see the writing on the wall. They know that job security isn't there. They want to explore, and we give them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, this was something we learned from the Tropical MBA, actually. I thought, no way. I was not convinced. I figured we would never be able to find someone to come out to Asia.
What kind of donkey is going to come work for us? I come out and get paid peanuts and move out to Southeast Asia and leave potentially a good job behind. We would get some absolute retarded people.
Yeah, and then Dan and Ian introduced us to our team, and I was very impressed with the quality of employees that they had. And we started digging into it and figured out that we could do this well. So we've hired apprentices as well to supplement our staff in the Philippines, and it's worked out extremely well.
Mike's looking at me like, dude, what are you talking about, man? I'm not trying. How dare you? But yeah, no, we were just amazed at the talent of people that were willing to do this. And our first time we got like 20-something replies of people that were interested. So we said, holy shit, there's something to this. We can get super sharp guys and gals to come out to Asia, work for peanuts and help us grow our business. That's awesome. And they're like, yes, I want to do that, right? Because they want to get away from crappy job markets back home and broken promises to corporations. So.
But there is some times that apprentice is not appropriate to hire for, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now. Is whether an apprentice or a VA should be the one that you're looking at.
All right, so let's go through some quick questions you might want to ask yourself on whether it's going to be a VA or apprentice. The first thing is the position a high level or low level touch with your customers? Do they have to be getting on the phone? Do they have to be understanding the customer's needs? Or is it more of kind of like a chat, like low level support? Low level support would be better for a virtual assistant. High touch, high care would be better for an apprentice, as we discussed it.
Mike's a great example. We have Mike doing a lot of outgoing phone calls or incoming phone calls with customers or prospects of these sites that we're selling or sellers. So, I think that somebody was trying to sell their site for maybe even a couple of $100,000. They don't want to talk to a Filipino VA. They want to talk to an American who's pretty close to our business.
Or Australian,
or sorry.
So hegemonic. American. No. The other thing is, are there decisions that need to be made in the business, subjective or objective? So, are these decisions that need a lot of thought, a lot of experience going into them, or can it be more process-based? We found in our experience that virtual assistants work better when things are more objective decisions. When a subjective touch is needed, we found that apprentices generally work better for us. You may have a different experience, but that's been ours and working with our team.
Yeah, it's not to say it can't be done with virtual assistants. I just think it's a little bit harder. And I think once you get off the roadmap, especially with these SOPs that you might be building, if you get off of the roadmap or something is not as clear, we tend to find that apprentices are better at adapting that than VAs are.
So, the next question is, does the process require any nationalized knowledge? So I use baseball and slang as an example, but there may be a particular product or niche that you guys are in that requires an American to kind of discuss it, or requires an Australian or a British guy to actually discuss it, where Indian VA or Filipino VA just wouldn't get it. There's no baseball in the Philippines. I mean, they have an idea about the sport, but they wouldn't know the intricacies at all. Basketball, done, no problem. But baseball, not happening.
Yeah, that said, I mean, we did have a campaign once where we were calling rural Australia with VAs. So maybe you could make it work, but it has to be very basic, not some intrinsic kind of knowledge where, like Justin was saying, you really need to know the culture.
The last thing is how many different skill sets are required, right? So how many different hats are you expecting this person to wear? Chris Ducker from Virtual Staff Finder, he's also chrisducker.com. He's big in the outsourcing industry, has a big call center in Cebu, and has worked with a ton of Filipino VAs. And he talks about something called the super VA myth, right? I don't know who sells this shit, but some people talk about this virtual assistant will solve all your problems, and you basically can take a $100,000 job and push it to your employee in the Philippines for $400 an hour, or $400 a month, and that's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. You're not going to have any VA, whether they're American, Filipino, or whatever, be able to just automatically do some coding for you, bit of customer calls, write some content for you, maybe edit up a podcast or two. That shit just doesn't happen. So not everyone. You have to look for different skill sets. So if you want a writer, maybe they can do things around writing, but that's kind of their skill set. If you want a developer, they're going to be able to do stuff around that, but that's kind of their core.
We absolutely see this from people who have never outsourced before. It's the biggest mistake they make, is they try to mix skill sets that they actually probably wouldn't do in the West. I mean, you wouldn't have a developer or programmer try to, write blog articles for your business, but here they are, they're trying to get a base level employee at a very cheap price, and they want them to do things that are very disparate in terms of skill set.
You're not going to hire a partner for $400 an hour, $400 a month. It's not going to happen. All right, so that's kind of high level stuff. Let's talk a bit more tactical stuff when you're looking to hire a VA. We're going to go through some of the steps.
Who here has hired a VA? All right. You guys use like Odesk or Elance?
Yell about, what do you guys use? Odesk? What else? Elance. Freelancer? Anyone use that?
Anybody done a job posting, like online jobs or something like that? Craigslist? All right.
Onlinejobs.ph. Craigslist was our first one, so that was back in 2004? 2005? I don't know, one of those years. We went to Craigslist, we posted in like India.
China, India, South America, Philippines.
Thailand, I think.
Yeah, Thailand, but we didn't get any replies, yeah. And that's actually how we hired our first VA, is we got a bunch of applications we went through, we interviewed them on Skype. I think it was Yahoo Messenger, actually. We interviewed them, and back in the day, you know.
Getting old, but.
And we wound up selecting someone from the Philippines who became one of our point people later on when we started the business.
Yeah, so I put, Odesk versus Virtual Staff Finder, just because I want to talk about kind of the different approaches. Odesk is where you're going out there and doing all the work to like test through the people. Virtual Staff Finder is a service run by Chris Tucker where you pay an upfront fee. I think it's $400 or $500, and they will get you qualified candidates that match kind of your criteria. Chris does this whole shindig all around the Philippines where he goes, does his thing in front of people, gets them fired up, and gets a ton of virtual assistants applying. So he's got a huge base of people he can pull from and match you up. It's like a virtual assistant matchmaking service. So,
anyone here use Virtual Staff Finder? All right, so we got a couple of people.
Yeah, it's a cool service. If it's very specific, it might be difficult, but if it's a kind of a general skill set, it's really good. So I think if you don't plan on hiring many people at all, that's probably a good path to use because it knocks out all the questions and kind of the issues you can have with hiring. It kind of gets rid of that top of funnel stuff.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're not used to hiring and you don't know the basics of it, or if you don't want to put a lot of time, effort, and energy into that top of funnel stuff, going through a lot of applications and then drilling down on people that you're going to actually interview, Virtual Staff Finder might be a good service for you to select. So
speaking of funnels, that's exactly how you should view the hiring process, whether it's for a virtual assistant or anybody else really. And in the funnel, top of funnel, you want to spend the least amount of time messing with them, right? And when we first did it, we got all these applications, and Joe and I literally painstakingly went through all of these resumes and tried to figure out. It was a complete waste of time for the people that wouldn't even show up to the call, right? Why are we going through their resume? It's stupid. So what you want to do is you want to find a way to have them self-select down the funnel as you're hiring people. A way to do that is these are some of the tactics that we use, is we'll put 2 Easter eggs in the ad. So for Filipinos, you might, who's your favorite boxer from the Philippines? Manny Pacquiao or whatever, something like that. Make them put that in there and use a second one. Because on Odesk, they're used to 1 Easter egg, so start adding a second. So if they don't actually include both those, maybe something in the title and something in their email or in their message back to you, it's a quick disqualifier.
Yeah,
you can disqualify them right away. You want a reason to throw their resume away and not even have to look at it.
The reason why we asked you to do this is because a lot of people on these big places like Odesk, Elance, Freelancer, they're just replying to every ad they see out there. They have a copy and paste kind of template, and they reply to everyone, and anyone who just hires them and pays them, that's who they're going to go with. You don't want somebody working for you like that. You want someone that has attention to details, actually going to read your messages and go through it. So, that's what we're trying to figure out here.
We also have we don't have the link for it, we'll have to get that to you later, but there's a grammar test. It's a free online grammar test put by one of the educational institutions.
It's actually a Canadian college, yeah.
And we've had hundreds of Americans go through this test. We've had a couple hundred Filipinos go through this test. So we have a pretty good idea on the scores. I think if it's someone that it doesn't require getting on the phone or actually communicating with clients, we require a 70 or better. If they do, then it's an 80 or better, and that's for our Filipino staff. But here's the real purpose for this. Because it's a funnel, if you require them to use the Easter eggs first, you can toss the ones that don't. If you require them to take the grammar test, you can toss the ones that don't even bother taking it or don't even send you the results. It's a self-made test. They could totally fake the answers and send them to me, but if they don't even bother to do that, then they're not someone we want on our team.
Yeah, the test takes about an hour, and you don't have to give a grammar test. If you want to give some sort of other objective multiple choice test that can just come up with a score, that's great. because now you'll have an average over time and you'll be able to exclude people that you won't have to interview. And that's what we're looking to do. And a lot of people, they won't even take the test. They'd rather go for the easy other jobs that are just going to pay them and not sort of sort through the people, the best candidates.
Perfect. Those are the weak sauce employees you don't want on your team. So the other thing is we use a 3-to-1 ratio when we're interviewing to hire. So we want to interview, via Skype or in person or whatever, at least 3 people for every 1 hire we want to make. And the reason for that is 2 at a minimum. We prefer 3 because you want to at least compare the 2. I like to be able to compare 3, but at least 2 at a very minimum. Because you interview someone, you say, oh, this is a good hire for, or this is a good pickup for me. They fit me. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the only person you've talked to.
Yeah, I think you'll find that, and you shouldn't take this personally. A lot of times, people won't show up for the interview. They'll show up late, and for me, showing up late is another disqualifier. So, I definitely don't appreciate that, and that's why I think you really have to have at least 3 people that you're going to be interviewing for any one job.
And so we'll set that up in batches to where, because I don't want to waste days of interviewing people, so we'll set them all up in a very tight group. So if I miss one or whatever, it's like a 15-minute difference, not a big deal. I just get on to the next one. So we're going to hire and train in batches as well. That's really important because you don't want to just be spending your time training one person. You might as well do 2 or 3 people. And then, if you're hiring 3 people for only one position, you can dump the rest. Odesk, for example, makes it really easy to do that. You can drop the other 2 and go with the winner. This is very specific. I don't know if it's only specific to the Philippines.
I think India has the same issue.
It is a thing in the Philippines, is you get a yes, sir problem. Have you guys ever dealt with this? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
yes, sir. Done.
Yes,
Let's do it.
Yes, sir means maybe.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so yes, sir is a maybe. It may mean no. They've got this whole weird thing going on, right? Where yes is no, and because they don't want to disappoint, right? They don't want. It's a face-saving thing. It's an Asian thing, particularly face-saving, and the Philippines has this as well, where they don't want to tell you no and have you feel bad or look bad or have you think badly of them. So a great way to test that is to don't ask them if they understand. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Of course. Yeah. Ask them to repeat back to you in a different way what you're asking them to do. That's a really great way to get around the yes sir problem.
Yeah.
So and it sounds silly, it sounds a little weird, but just go back to them and say, okay, so what is it exactly that you're going to do? How are you going to go about doing that? That's a good way to test that.
Yeah, especially later on in the interview. If you told them, at the beginning of the interview, this is what my company does. Later on in the interview, say, hey, can you explain what my company does? And I know that sounds like something very basic, but it helps you to know whether they can pay attention and take your directions and.
God, Joe, you're taking me back. I forgot we did that. So yeah. So in the Philippines, when we were starting off, he would mention something about what we do or something about our business toward the beginning. 15 minutes later, would ask them that exact question related to that little piece that he told them, and sometimes they would have no idea because they weren't paying attention. You want people that are paying attention, right? So that was a good disqualifier. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about hiring an apprentice. This is a little different, but the same funnel. So, call you out, Mike. When we brought you on the team, we had, I think, 17 people apply. I don't want to talk to, I don't want to dig through all their resumes. I want them to self-select themselves out, right? So we made them fill out all these details, made them submit a video. So of the 17 people, 4 or 5 didn't fill out all the questions or didn't send the video or whatever, great. I don't have to deal with those people, right? I don't have to look through their stuff. I don't have to agonize over who I'm going to pick. I'm letting them self-select. What we did is we use our audience and networks. We've got a big network of people in Southeast Asia, and people talk about lifestyle businesses, so that was easier for us. But you can use yours. Right, I mean, you've got Anton, you've got Johnny out here living it up in Chiang Mai, talking about living like a boss, traveling like a boss. Use that. They'd be happy to. If you guys are hiring people in Chiang Mai to work on dropship businesses, they would be happy to help you explore that, right? I mean, the guys are nodding their heads. Absolutely, because they're building a movement, and they love to see other people come out and join that shit.
Yeah, so forums, communities, there's a lot of Facebook pages, that kind of thing. that's a good way to get the word out that you're hiring an apprentice.
We have people that have applied previously or have expressed interest when we didn't have it, and we'd be happy to share your stuff too, because we're down with that. We want to support the movement as well. So.
What you're not going to be able to do is like go post on Monster, because those people are looking for the 9-to-5 kind of cubicle jobs. So don't even put that in your kind of repertoire of tools to work with.
Yeah, talk to people that are talking about the lifestyle businesses. Us, Johnny, Anton, Tropical MBA guys. Those are the guys you want to help promote your position. Sell the dream. We do sell the dream. I mean, especially to apprentices that are coming out. We're talking about kind of what their life's going to be like, what they're going to experience, and hopefully, for the most part, it meets or surpasses their expectations. We've had guys come out here and they're like, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to be a hut. I didn't know. And we tease them actually on the way from the airport. Like we're driving by little like lean-to shacks where we're like, yeah, we're right behind that. Your place is actually outdoor next to the bathroom. It's no problem though. It's a nice little mat. It's just a bamboo mat. You're good. So they're like, oh shit, what did I get myself into? My parents were right. So yeah, crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's, when you're selling the dream, you also want to make it really, really smooth transition. So that's one of the things that we do is when we bring apprentices out, it starts off, and up till now, it's always been $1,000 a month is what they get paid.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep them close at start. So you don't want them having to go out and set up their own place, and find furniture, and they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. This kind of thing can be very time consuming, especially in a foreign place. So having everything set up for them and keeping them close by so that not only you can train them on your business, but also you make the transition for the move to Asia very easy for them is important.
Yeah, so $1,000 a month to start, that's just play money because their food, their laundry, their rent, their soap, like everything is just taken care of for them. So it's really, really smooth when they come out. They don't have to worry about any of that. They can just focus on building your business and having a bit of fun. And so that makes it really appealing to people because they're like, look, I'm gonna have some pocket money, I'm gonna have some cash to go play, and everything's set up for me. It's scary making a move halfway around the world. So the more frictionless you can make that, the better. And then eventually they're gonna get paid more. But think about that for a second. So you're getting a super sharp guy or gal out to help you really grow your business and help you work inside of your business for effectively $1,500 a month. That's awesome. Right? I mean, from an employer's perspective, that's awesome.
Yeah, so once you funnel them down, though, based on self-direction and following directions, the interview really should be based on a fit with you and your organization. So this is, I think, a pretty important thing is, unlike a VA where you're probably hiring more for skill set, you're going to be hiring more for fit with your apprentice.
Yeah, you've already kind of like made sure they kind of met certain criteria for the job position. Now you want to make sure it's going to be someone you're cool with, really, and that like kind of vibes with your organization. An apprentice hire is a pretty important hire, so you're going to want to make sure that you guys get along, really. That's the thing. Make sure you get along, make sure you see eye to eye, and that you guys can build your organization together, that the culture will be there. All right, so if you get nothing else out of this presentation today, seriously, this is probably the most important thing what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, this has helped us a lot. This is something we learned working in corporate America. I know corporate America gets a bad rap, but it does use some techniques that work, and I'm glad we learned this one.
Joe likes the JOB, man. So we the company we worked for, the SEO company, there was a mentor of mine that kind of passed this on to me, and hopefully I can pass it on to you. I'd say at that company, it probably saved or made us 7 figures. In our own business over the last few years, saved or made us 6 figures pretty easily.
Yeah.
So it's important.
So we call it the skill transfer process, and this is something you'll use when training VAs, Westerners, whatever. It's a 5-step process that we use every day to train, that we use when we're training trainers. So something definitely I think you can take away.
So the first step is explain. And what this is just a high-level walkthrough of the standard operating procedure overall. You're going to explain kind of like the 30,000-foot view of what it is, why we're doing it, and kind of explain exactly the different steps and what's going to happen. So it's not doing it, it's not showing them, it's just talking them through it.
Yeah, a lot of people miss this step. You have to explain why they're doing this and why it's important. Even simple tasks and simple things that your VA is doing, it's important that they understand the bigger picture.
The second step is demonstrate. So this is the step where you actually go through and do it for them. So you're going to do a step, talk about it as you're doing it, show them what you did, and then do the next step and do the next step. You're going to be the one doing it, so they see it done right the first time. So now that they know the why, now they're seeing exactly what to do, right? You're showing them the steps, you're showing it done correctly.
Yeah, and that's why it's important that you do the process yourself, because if you're going to demonstrate it to them and you don't know how to do it, or you've never done it before, you're going to be stumbling, you don't know how to do it, and that's just not a really good way to teach someone to do a process.
The third step is practice. So you're actually going to have them go step by step this time, and you're going to sit with them, and they're going to do the first step, and you're going to critique them on every single step along the way. So you're going to say, oh, you didn't do this right, or you need to adjust this. Okay, let's do the next step. Oh, that's not exactly right, let's fix this, and just walk them through the step and see them do this. And by the way, this skill transfer process can be done sometimes in 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes it takes several days. It really just depends on how complicated the process is. So yeah, so now that you've allowed them to practice, you've actually critiqued them on each step along the way. The fourth step is observe.
So observe is different from practice in that you allow them to complete the entire process themselves. You try not to interrupt. And that's really key, because sometimes people get hung up on a step in a process, and you want them to go ahead and figure it out themselves if possible.
And if they get stuck on any of these steps, you have to complete each step before you move on to the next. And by the way, let me back up again too and say the purpose of the skill transfer process is because it's easy in an organization to lose like your skill from here to there, right? So like you have this knowledge, you're able to do it at let's say 100% efficiency, right? It's just amazing. And a lot of times when you pass something down to someone else, they do 70% of the job or 60% of the job. The skill transfer process keeps that really high, 95, 98%, so you don't lose efficiency as you go further down the chain. So you may be training this person, they may end up training people later on to take over their job. You don't want that going to shit.
Yeah, it's very key in outsourcing, especially when you're scaling up a process, is if you start losing efficiency, your cost benefits will be devalued. That's why you see a lot of people complain about outsourcing, and it's probably because their training and their process documentation is not there. So they have people doing that they're paying $15 an hour in the US to do, and like, yeah, they're much better at it. And when I pay the $5 an hour people in the Philippines, it takes them 1/5 the efficiency, so I'm actually losing money. And that's something that this process will help you.
And beyond outsourcing, just general team building, it's a great way, if you're inefficient in your skill transfer, it's a great way for you to go from a profitable company to an unprofitable company as you scale. The last step is feedback. So you basically have them explain what they're doing as they go through each step, kind of the why of what they're doing, and that's going to avoid the yes sir. It's also going to make sure that they understand why they're doing each step, the importance of each step, and can go through it. They're also going to give you feedback on how comfortable they are with the process, how comfortable they were with the training. And that will give you a bit of information for the next time you use that skill transfer process with somebody else. Does that make sense? Does everyone understand the skill transfer process? I mean, it's fairly basic, fairly straightforward. You're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But when you actually start using it, you go, wow, that's really helpful, really helpful. All right, so let's do a quick wrap up on SOPs, hiring, and scaling your business. First step is do it yourself first. If you haven't done it, you don't know how long it takes, you don't know if the steps actually work, and you don't know anything about it. Second thing is make sure it's profitable. So once you've done it a few times yourself and you know that it makes you money, that's when you shouldn't be doing it. The other thing you want to do is document the process via SOPs. So it's going to be step by step. You can hand it off to a McDonald's employee and they can knock it out.
Video and screenshots.
The fourth thing you want to do is hire. You're going to want to consider whether you need a contractor or an actual employee. You need to decide whether or not you want an apprentice, expat employee, or you want a virtual assistant. The fifth step is you're going to want to go through the skill transfer process, make sure you don't lose any efficiency in training that process to your new team member. And then the sixth step will be rinse and repeat. So continue doing that as you scale up your business, drop shipping or otherwise. How's that? Does anyone have any questions or anything about kind of that process? What's up, man?
What's the actual sell point there like a trial period with certain people?
With virtual staff?
No, there's no trial period with virtual staff planner.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So he's wondering if there's a trial period with Virtual Staff Finder, I think. Is that your question? Yeah, so there isn't a trial period with Virtual Staff Finder.
So how it works is a flat fee, and they get you 3 candidates that match your criteria.
If that doesn't work, and another 3 work out, they'll look for an additional 3, but there is no trial period.
Yeah,
if you want trial periods, you're much better on an Odesk type platform.
And then you pay the employee directly. Virtual Staff Finder is not involved in that. You just pay them 1 flat fee, 1 time to find the people for you, find the candidates.
You're better off with Virtual Staff Finder on you're more likely to get someone that matches your needs. With like an Odesk type platform, that's the thing where you want to do 3 hires when you only plan on keeping 1 or maybe 2 if they're really good. So it's kind of a different approach. You go a little broader with Odesk, and you can go a bit more narrow and have a better hire with Virtual Staff Finder. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
What about contracts? Like how formal or informal can it be? Is there a standard?
We are not big contract guys, I have to say. We hate lawyers. I hope there's no lawyers in the room.
Probably at least 1.
But
especially when it comes to Odesk and this type of thing, I mean, you don't really need it. I think the only, because we're working across international borders, it's a mess, dude. Who's going to do, hiring legal issues with multiple countries involved? The only thing I think that contracts really bring value is in clarifying both parties' position.